My name is Dorothy Felix, and I am a native here. This is home for me.
We've been here since '72, and in early '70s, I met a young lady from Mossville, and we were wedded, and I became a resident of Mossville.
I'm new on the horizon.
Okay.
I moved here in 2003, and I have a son, and his family lives here. I have grandchildren and great-grandchildren here.
No developments or nothing. It was just a clean, healthy environment to live in. You could fish, you could grow gardens, you could raise cattle. We could come here when we couldn't go nowhere else. We could be a human being here. We could walk into the little grocery stores that were here and go to the front door and stand to the counter and say, I want potatoes. Give me $1 worth of potatoes. It meant a lot to me because I could be my own self. I could be a human being. I didn't have to go and bow to somebody to please hand me a sandwich, please give me a little hamburger.
Mossville doesn't have local grocery stores anymore. What it does have are 14 different industrial facilities, some with household names like ConocoPhillips and Georgia Gulf. Facilities that many residents say are making them sick.
So many people have passed in the past that have died with stuff that have never even been thought about. We always took it as just being a natural thing.
When you die in your 30s and your 50s, there's a reason for it. You don't just die.
We have sickness. I mean, really have a lot of sickness in the community. Cancer, rash, respiratory problems, especially some of the children.
You notice that there are a number of young people, just like my granddaughter. They suffer from a breathing problem. She can't hardly sleep at night, lay down because she can't breathe freely at night, and her nose bleeds all the time.
You know, we can't drink the water. Sometimes we question whether we should even take a bath in it.
When you see, and there's a rash, I know a number of youngsters that have a rash on their body. That's because bathing in this water and there are chemicals in the water.
The ATSDR, part of the Centers for Disease Control, took blood samples of consenting Mossville residents in 1998 and concluded in 2001 that the residents had dioxin levels in their blood 3 times that of their national comparison group.
Dioxins are byproducts of industrial processes and are most notably found in soil sediment and animal tissue. Human intake of dioxins occurs primarily through consumption of fruits, vegetables, as well as meat and dairy. Most humans are exposed to dioxins without ill effects. However, dioxins are highly toxic in large concentrations and can contribute to reproductive and developmental problems, harm the immune system, and cause cancer.
Another study taken by Dr. Marvin Legator from the University of Texas at Galveston concluded that Mossville is a very sick community, with high rates of everything from nosebleeds to seizures.
And EPA toxicologist consultant Peter Orrs concluded that local sources are likely responsible for the significant levels of dioxin exposure among Mossville residents.
However, the Lake Area Industry Alliance, the local trade organization representing the industry, disagrees. And while they turned down our request for an interview, they told CNN in 2010 that the emissions from the plants are of a level that they have no ill effects on the local community.
So who's right? Well, one place we won't find out is the American legal system. Let's step back a little bit and explain how environmental laws in this country work. In 1970, Congress passed the Clean Air Act, which among other things mandates that companies who want to build new industrial facilities must keep their emissions in the top 12% of their industrial sector. As long as they do that, they can get a permit. So let's say Henry and I start our own manufacturing company. Our factory releases dioxins into the air, but we're within the top 12% of our industrial sector.
So we get our permit, right?
Well, not so fast. We have a little problem. You see, the folks who live near the factories miss the good old days when they used to have clean air and water.
So, lawsuit?
Well, they're going to try. I think they might use environmental law, tort law, or civil rights law. Suppose they wanted to use environmental law. All we needed to show is that we are complying with the emission standards under the Clean Air Act. We're in the top 12% of our industrial sector, so environmental law is no good for them. They might use tort law and sue us under nuisance or property rights, but we're following the law, the Clean Air Act, so we're okay. And as for civil rights law, the legal standard is all about intent, not outcome. So even though facilities like ours are often poor, minority communities, if they try to use civil rights law on us, all we need to show is that we aren't intentionally discriminating.
And let's be real, that's almost impossible to prove.
Now, you got it. There is one exception to this rule. If the company makes a mistake along the way, it could create an opportunity for a successful lawsuit. This actually happened in the Mossville case. Georgia Gulf did not disclose a leak in their ethylene pipeline that contaminated the water in a Mossville neighborhood. They ended up having to pay to relocate the residents.
However, waiting for mistakes clearly has its limitations. That's why Mossville's attorneys, Monique Harden and Natalie Walker, are using an entirely different approach to represent Mossville.
They say we've got huge health problems. We've had people dying of cancers. We've got children born with birth defects. They have zero recourse.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
Blazing a new trail, they became the first attorneys in the United States to use human rights law for an environmental case.
In 2005, Hardin and Walker, through their law firm Advocates for Environmental Human Rights, submitted a petition on behalf of the Mossville residents to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights.
The commission was formed in 1959 by the Organization of American States as part of a treaty signed by countries in the Western Hemisphere, including the U.S.
In Mossville's best-case scenario, the Commission could determine that the environmental hazards experienced by Mossville residents constitute a human rights violation. To prove that there was a violation, Hardin and Walker need to show that American environmental law fails to protect the basic human rights of Mossville residents, most notably their right to health and safety within their home.
We're still talking about the right to health, the right to privacy, all of which our government has an obligation to respect, but is not doing so through this environmental regulatory system that allows the violation of these rights. Their case to a trial before the Inter-American Commission is extremely important because what it acknowledges is that there is no legal remedy in the United States for the harm suffered by Mossville residents.
A human rights violation could have major foreign policy consequences. It could undermine America's credibility to criticize other nations for their own human rights abuses, everything from China's role in Tibet to the brutal crackdowns of the Arab Spring. This could compel the State Department and the President to push for stronger environmental protections.
However, there could be limitations to applying the Mossville case domestically. We spoke with the director of Tulane's Environmental Law Clinic, Adam Babbage, to get his take on Mossville's petition.
Mossville is an extreme situation, right? So basically, the upshot of the petition is essentially saying that the situation there is so bad that it, constitutes a denial of basic human rights to the residents. Now, there are a lot of significant environmental problems that affect people that don't necessarily rise to that level.
Regardless of the Commission's final ruling, one thing is certain. The current system does not work for the people of Mossville.
And the plant manager told me that as long as EPA say that it's all right for them to release that amount of chemicals, he don't have nothing, because it's the law. And something hit me one day after he had told me that, and because of who he was, he had said, as long as the law said that it's all right, that it's no problem. And I thought about him saying that. I remember the law said that one day that years ago that we had to go through the back door. You know, we couldn't come through the front door. You know, but that was the law.
Yonder, dressed in red, sets my people free. I'm begging, who's there yonder, dressed in red?